Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chase and this is All Things Random. I am green with envy when it comes to this watch. This watch is the Academic by J&G Watches. This is a watch I've been looking forward to for a very long time, and I'm very happy to bring it to you right now. Now, J&G Watches, formerly JF Watches, is a watch brand, a micro watch brand that has been created by Gary at I Like Watches and James. James is a person who is in the scientific community, and you know that if you own the first watch that they created with the Exciton. Now, if you are interested in that review, I'll leave it right up here. But when I say in the scientific community, you'll understand when you look at the case back of that watch. Now, James and Gary did create the Exciton and the Exciton 2, then the Academic. Now, the Academic is more of a dress watch, whereas the Exciton here is a dive watch. And this, my Exciton, with the Exciton 2 bracelet, which is absolutely amazing, will be a giveaway when we hit 10,000 subscribers. So if you're a subscriber to this channel, I will give away my own personal Exciton that I purchased with my own money when they first created their first watch. I will be doing a giveaway to one of my subscribers. Now, Gary at I Like Watches and I Like Watches too. I will leave a link down below to his YouTube channels. I will also leave a link down below to James's Instagram so you guys can go over and follow him as well. Speaking of Instagram, guys, go follow me at Instagram at all_things_random_AK. If you guys are interested in what I'm reviewing in the future, I always do some photographs and some videos or some clips of videos that are always released on my Instagram first before I do the actual reviews like on this channel. So let's talk about the Academic watch that's in my hand right now. Again, green with envy because this is a sunburst green dial. Now let's take a walk around the watch. Now the watch itself is 316L stainless steel, which is the industrial standard, which of course I'd expect from any watch on the market. Anything that's not 316L stainless steel or better, I would say is a dud. Now, the diameter of this case is 38 millimeters, which of course I've always said is the perfect size watch diameter because most wrists are anywhere from 6.5 to 7.5, which means anywhere from 36 millimeters to 40 millimeter watch size in diameter is perfect. So 38 is right in the middle. So I'm glad they chose 38 plus. This is more of a dress watch. So more of a dress watch should be slightly on the smaller end, shouldn't be bulky on the wrist, and this is not at all. The thickness of this watch is 10 millimeters, which means it's going to slide under that cuff if you're wearing a dress shirt perfectly. The lug to lug of this watch is 46 millimeters, which means it's gonna again fit perfectly on that wrist, and the lug size is 20 millimeters. Now, this watch was designed by watch lovers. When I say it was designed by watch lovers, I mean if you could design your perfect watch and make it a reality, that's exactly what James did in this watch. And one of the things that leads me to believe that is the lugs itself. If you look, it has drilled lugs. Not only does it have drilled lugs, but it has a second position in the lug. So if you want to wear a different strap that doesn't fit close to the case, you can go ahead and lower it on the second lug position, which again is one of those things. Like if you look at something like my Rolex Submariner here, this is the 50th anniversary Kermit. It is extremely difficult to find anything outside of a chase strap. Yes, chase strap that works on this watch. The case is extremely sharp and the lugs are extremely close to the case, so when you try to fit an aftermarket strap, it tends to tear and fray at the leather. One of the things that I really like about this Academic is they knew that because James, who designed this watch, is an avid watch lover. Now, walking around the case, speaking of a watch lover's watch, the bezel on this watch is high polished, but the case is not. The case itself is brushed. Now, anybody knows that a high polished watch is a fingerprint magnet, so it's nice to see that the case is brushed, but the bezel is high polished. Now, why do I want a high polished bezel? Well, that's because it is very attractive to the eye to look down and see a high polished bezel while on the wrist. Now, we tend to look at watches from the top down and not from the side. But if you were a watch lover and you looked at it from the side, you'd see that there's another break that's very pleasing to the eye, which means it goes from high polished to brushed. Then you see on the lugs are chamfered edging, which is another detail that a lot of watch companies aren't going to put into their watches. The lugs on the case have a really nice arch that leads out from the watch and then down along the wrist shape. This is another nice touch. The case also is more of a cushion case or rounded, as opposed to a lot of watches, again, like my Rolex or like my Datejust, that offers a lot of sharp edging when it comes to the watch case itself. This is very rounded, it's very nice, and it's very comfortable. Now, if you think that they've put a lot of effort into the case, then of course they would do the same thing on the dial. Now, the dial itself is a green sunburst dial, which just shimmers in the light. I'm not the biggest fan of green, but I absolutely love the green of this watch. I also love the fact that they offer it in other colors other than green. When it comes to details, not a lot is missed on this watch. If you look at the watch face, you can see that the indices are different. The indices, the 12, the 3, the 6, and the 9 are Roman numerals, and then filling in at the 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, and 11 are all baton. Now, these are high polished indices, which actually look very, very nice against that sunburst dial. The hands on the watch, the minute hand and the hour hand, are both sword style hands, but they're high polished along the edges, which again creates a very nice glimmer in the light. One of the things I love the most about the hands of this watch is going to be that second hand. Now, the second hand is an arrow, like an arrow from a bow and arrow, and it's very, very nice to see it gliding at 28,800 beats an hour, very smooth at 8 ticks a second around the dial. We'll talk about the movement in just a minute, but the one thing that I also love about this second hand is the fact that on the counterbalance is a circle. Now, every watch has their signature, and I think that the signature of this watch is becoming the second hand. Now, that counterbalance is a circle, just like on the Exciton and the Exciton 2. So I think that that is becoming their signature, which I very much appreciate. Now, J and G is printed perfectly just below the 12, and Academic is also printed perfectly just above the 6. The crown on this watch is not screw down, but I really wouldn't blame them because this is a dress watch. 30 meters of water resistance is really all you need, basically, for a dress watch, so I wouldn't expect a screw down crown necessarily on this watch. But speaking of the crown, one of the things that I also love is the fact that they didn't go with a laser etching crown. They went with a raised instead, which means that J and G is raised on the crown, which is, again, more indicative of a higher value watch. Now, the movement of this watch is a Miyota 9039, which is a modified 9015 as a base movement and then modified on top of that, which is already a higher end movement for Miyota. This offers 24 joules, 28,800 vibrations per hour. So again, that ticking second hand is 8 ticks a second. So it's far smoother along the dial. Offers 42 hours of power reserve, has hacking and hand winding, and is very nice to adjust the time. Everything is extremely smooth. One of the things that, again, makes a good microbrand watch is the fact that they choose a movement appropriate for the watch. Now, when I say a movement appropriate for the watch, a lot of people will end up using an NH35 with a date function and then put a dial with no date on top, so you have something called a ghost date. This does not have that. They chose a movement that is not only a higher end Miyota movement, but modified from the higher end that fits this watch perfectly. So one pull of that crown and it goes directly into the timing function. The rotor on this watch is unidirectional, so it doesn't matter which way your wrist turns, it's going to wind the watch. On this watch is the Vario green leather strap, which is okay, but let's go ahead and toss it on my 7¼ inch wrist. Now you can see here on my 7¼ inch wrist, the 38mm diameter watch fits very nicely. It doesn't fit overly large, it's very thin to the wrist, and that 10mm thickness makes it so it's closer to the skin. So again, it slips underneath any cuff. Now, if I wave my hand and now I toss it on a vintage brown leather suede strap from Chase Straps, it just gives it a better overall appearance. Then one more wave and you can see that it goes into the vintage suede gray from Chase Straps. One of the things that I always tell people is don't be afraid to change the straps on your watch. It's one of those things that's like clothing on you. Are you going to wear the same clothing every single day? Of course you would not. You would change your clothing. So change your straps. Change the bracelets. It's okay. The dial and the case are you, and the straps are the clothing. Please, for God's sakes, change your clothing. If you guys are interested in aftermarket watch straps, check out chasestraps.com down below. Now, what are my final thoughts about the academic watch? Well, it's one of those things that, like I said, it is a watch designed by a watch lover. Not only does it come in a watch travel case, right? So that you can wear it and then bring your favorite watch with you if you have an additional watch that you wear, because everybody who always travels should never have just one watch. Now, I say that because that's my own personal opinion, but you should always have a dress watch and then a sports watch. So while you're wearing your academic watch, maybe bring your favorite sports watch inside of their travel pouch, which comes with the watch. Now, the travel pouch is very high quality leather, and I know that because I deal in leather with my own watch straps. The Vario leather strap that comes with it is really good also, and one of the things that I really love are the notes of the previous watches, like that second hand with that counterbalance sort of circle that is indicative of the other watches from J&G or JF watches. I like the fact that they, are doing something different. And I like the fact that they're using movements that are higher end on the micro brand market. I'm super sick and tired of micro brands using cheaper watch movements for their watch, but then their watches are at a higher price point. Not J&G watches. Again, I like watches and I like watches too down below. Follow James down below on his Instagram. And I'm telling you that you guys are not going to be disappointed with the watches that they're coming up with in the future. If they've already come out with the Exciton and then the Exciton 2 and then the Academic, you know that as long as we continue to support watch lovers who create watches that we love, there's more than just the Academic in the future. That's sort of how it works. So I'm looking forward to watches in the future from J&G Watches. So happy they decided to allow me to get hands on their Academic. Now, what do you guys think about this video? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Leave a comment down below of the content you guys want to see on this channel. I have a lot of videos coming out in the future to include dive videos, dive equipment videos. I know this is all things random, mostly watches with other stuff sprinkled in between. So if you are not here for the watch, bear with me. There's other videos coming in the future. That being said, my passion is watches, and I will continue to do those videos as well. Make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button and hitting that notification bell so you can be notified when I drop all of these videos. Until next time.